We all have ideas, don't we? Good ones, bad ones. Sometimes we write them down, sometimes they pass in the moment, and sadly, some of them die inside us. And we've all had some really good ideas that we just knew were going to take off. We knew they were going to get legs. And for some reason, they didn't. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I see some ideas, mediocre ideas, and sometimes even really bad ideas. And I wonder, how is it that idea stuck? And I bet if you're listening to this, if you're watching me, you probably have an idea that you think is really good. And maybe it's already begun to get some traction. Maybe it already is a company. Maybe you'd like it to be a company. I'm here to tell you that ideas alone are powerless. Ideas don't get power until they are adopted by the marketplace. So if you want your idea to become a groundswell, the market, well, more specifically a subset of the market, needs to grab your idea and it needs to resonate with them. The only difference between successful ideas that make it or don't and bad ideas that make it or don't is how they are communicated. And since the beginning of time, story has been the best way to communicate ideas. There's something magical about a story, the way that it transcends time, the way it stops us, the way it creates sometimes even a physical reaction in us. It's the best tool to communicate an idea. My name is Nigel Green, and I help entrepreneurs with good ideas get customers. I help you take your idea, shape it into a story, and take that story to create a company. You see, I've figured out the elements of story and how they can transform a market. And today I'm going to show you 3 things, really simple things, that if you use them well, will help you take your idea and shape it into a story that's going to create a movement and going to help your company grow faster. The truth is, if you don't master these 3 elements of storytelling and the way it helps you create sales and grow your business, you're not going to like the way the story of your company ends. So the first thing you need to know about story is that it's timeless. It's been the tool since the beginning of time, before literate generations, in fact, to take ideas and pass them down and create change in people. Story alone has fundamentally changed the human experience. So for you, a business owner, an entrepreneur, you need to know that the best tool you have to create customers and create sales is story. That's why there's a market for books, that's why there's a market for movies, and that's why companies today use the stories feature on social media to get you and to position ads in front of you to get them to buy their product. Good stories have 3 components, and if you go back to even the days of Aristotle, they all follow a very simple and formulaic approach. So the first thing that you need to know about good stories is that there is a gap. There's a gap that exists between today, ordinary life for your customer, and tomorrow, the future, what the world could be like if they overcome the challenges they face today. The extent to which you can broaden that gap for your potential customer will only amplify your story. The more pain that you can put in today and the more pleasure that you can add to tomorrow is actually going to help get them to move. So the first thing, the most important thing, is you have to define the gap that exists between where we are and where we need to go. The second thing that you need to understand about story is called resistance. So think about this. Think about it this way. There are a lot of things that you could or should do in your own personal life that just creates a lot of work. It's met with some type of resistance. We all know someone that would like to lose a little bit of weight, but that requires going to the gym. Maybe saving a little bit more money, that requires changing your behavior. The same is true for your customers and getting them to take action on your idea. There's some real human level of resistance that they face. The fact that they're going to have to get others in their organization to change, or that the status quo that feels really comfortable to them now is going to look different in the future. And that creates a lot of uncertainty because we just don't know what the future looks like. So good stories not only talk about the resistance, but they do it in a way with empathy and authority that says, I know you feel resistance to what I'm asking you to do differently, and that's normal. You're not the only one. But then they use the authority to say, we know what it's like because we felt that resistance, and like you, we want to overcome it, and we're going to show you how. So the second main point that you have to understand in good stories is that they embrace the resistance that's real, not just perceived, that your customers feel about your idea. So the third component to really good storytelling is what I call bliss. It's this utopian world. So once we have talked about the gap, once we've embraced the resistance, then we have to show the customer what the world looks like when they no longer have this problem, when they lean into your idea and adopt it. And sometimes this is really hard because the more specific you can be about bliss, if you can actually pull words from your customer as you're talking to them about how they describe the resistance or how they describe the gap, the better you are at getting real words, real language, real feelings, and real sentiment from your customers and using that to describe bliss, how they see bliss, not how you see it, the better the story's going to be. And if you want to check my work on this, feel free to go back and listen to Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream. Go back and watch some of Steve Jobs and Apple's early work in the 90s. And look at some of more modern stories used today to sell. They all follow these three steps. There's a gap, they embrace the resistance, and then they characterize this blissful utopia that is yet to be seen. So that's the first main point I want to share with you. The second thing is that all good stories do this, and it's a very subtle shift, but you need to master it, and you need to master it quickly. Look, it's okay to be proud of your idea, and it's okay to believe that your idea has this power to be something really special and maybe even change the world for your customer. But it's not okay for your story, for your idea, for your company, or for you to be the hero. You see, the only story that the customers that you want to have, the customers you need, the only story they're interested in is their own. The only journey that they're concerned with, the only gap that matters to them, the only resistance they feel, the only utopia that they care about are the ones that they're going to get to experience. So let's take Lord of the Rings. We all know that Frodo's the hero in that story and that he's the one that's going on this heroic adventure. But without Gandalf, without someone to talk to this ordinary character who feels the resistance and is unsure about whether or not to embark on the journey, without that nudge from a stronger character, a mentor like Gandalf, he's probably not going to do it, and there's no story. If you look at Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, we love him. He's the hero. But without Yoda nudging him to take a step out of his ordinary life and embark on this mission, well, Disney doesn't have the blockbuster hit that they have today. Most company stories are self-centered. They make the mistake of putting the founder, the tool, or some award that they've won as the centerpiece of the story. And that doesn't resonate. And that's why good ideas fail, because they don't understand that the customer is the only hero in the story. And when you can make this evenly, sometimes just a real subtle shift in your story and figure out ways to take your customer on this adventure and you play the role of the mentor and advisor, a couple of things are going to happen. Your customers are going to sit on the edge of their seat. They're going to lean in to this tale. And it's also, and maybe this is even more important, it's going to position you as the strongest character in the story. Because I think we'll all agree that Yoda and Gandalf been there, done that. There's no way they could advise Luke Skywalker, there's no way they could advise Frodo if they hadn't already seen the other side. And so our role in the storytelling situation is to have already been there, have already made the journey, already experienced blissful utopia, and just to come alongside and grab our customers by the hand and pull them along on this journey. Now, we've talked about the formula that stories have, all good stories, 3 criteria. We've talked about the way to subtly shift your story so that you're not the hero, but that the customer is. But like I said from the beginning, the whole point of story for companies is to create customers. You know, one of my favorite business mentors is the late Peter Drucker. And Peter Drucker said that business exists for one reason, to create customers. And I think this is really true for early stage companies. You see, the trap that early stage companies fall prey to is this notion of using story in a way to create a big launch or to go entice a big investor. And you probably need to do all of that at some point. But the fastest path to growth is to create a customer. And the only way a customer is created is with a sale. And story is your strongest, most powerful weapon to create a sale. Your job is to make sure that your story has the formula, places your customer on a journey, and makes them the hero. If you can do that, you don't need to go hire a big sales team because your story becomes the best salesperson in your company. It has a way of acting like a magnet and pulling everybody in. So the challenge is, don't have your story be full of noise and full of all this unsolicited information about what you've done or who you've raised funding with, or you've been featured in all these different publications. No. Use your story to pull in the customers that you want to have. And I tell you, if you do this, you're going to find that story has greater implications than just getting customers. It's going to maybe even potentially eliminate the need to go raise funding and give away part of your company. It's going to transform the way that you can recruit the talent that you might need to take your business to the next level. Entrepreneurs that understand story really have a better chance of the story of their business ending well. If you follow these points, if you do these 3 things well, you're going to like the way your story ends.